What's up, my friends? Good to have you here for another show. I am trying a brand new open. We're going to mix it up a little bit. I've been doing it the same way for the last 76 episodes. I got a good show today. I had a really fun conversation with Billy Hogge from Screwmatics in South Carolina. This is a company with over 200 machines, 110 people. He said like 16 buildings in their campus. A fascinating model, a fascinating case study of a company that's grown a lot in the 37 years, I think he said. He's 36, the company's 37, or the other way around. But Billy's parents started the business. He's now been part of running it for the last many years. And they are doing a lot of things right. Clearly, you have to be doing a lot of things right to grow to 200 machines and 110 people. So we get into all sorts of topics, such as the importance of them evolving over time, bringing on new technologies, looking into new things, always being sales driven. Billy has basically been focused on new sales development. Amazingly, their largest client was not even a customer 2 years ago. Their largest top 6 clients were not customers about 5 or 6 years ago. So he stresses, even when you are busy, you always have to be out doing sales. This is a drum I've been beating for years, so I'm glad to hear him talk about that. He is really involved in the local workforce community development, workforce development, so that he is in schools all the time, middle schools, high schools, giving shop tours for students, involved in the local tech school. His dad is on the board there, helping shape the curriculum, the machines they're buying, and then recruiting a ton of people out of that program in the local high schools. So some really actionable advice there. Encourage you, even though it takes time, you got to plant those seeds in the local schools. You got to advocate for yourself, as Billy says. Then at the end of the show, we get really into lights out. Clearly, as a high volume company, which is really what they specialize in, they are all about lights out. So he really goes in deep about the strategies they're using to be able to run, 24/7 at times, second shift without anyone around or very limited staff. Talk about cobots, talk about some of the machine monitoring and stuff that he does very effectively. There's just lots of really great tips here. So enjoy the show. I know this is one that you'll want to have your pencils out, so go ahead and do that. And thanks again for your support of the show as always. Welcome to the show, Billy. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, Paul, great to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So I saw a video with Tony Gunn and MTD CNC at your shop. Really impressive facility, over 200 machines, I think 160,000 square feet. And I'm like, that is a successful shop. I need to have this guy on the podcast because I interview successful owners of bigger shops. So here we are. So would love to hear about Screwmatics, about your background, a little bit of what the company looks like today beyond what I just shared for a number of machines and space, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Screwmatics, we're located in Pageland, South Carolina, watermelon capital of the world. We're a small town, I think 2,800 people here. And, I've been, born and raised in the business. So Screwmatics is a second generation shop. My father started it. I'm 36. The company's 37.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of how we got our start. My father was a tool and die maker. He taught tool and die making at the tech school in Florence, South Carolina. And then he moved to Pageland to be a manufacturing manager for a valve company, and then actually got fired. And he got a job offer, I think, somewhere in Texas, and it was either start my own thing or move to Texas. So decided to start his own. And back then, the big thing was automatic screw machines, and we were a Brown and Sharp screw machine shop. He had 2 Brown and Sharps, and that's where we get the name Screwmatics, automatic screw machine. Yeah, so he started that. I was doing parts for a welding company he used to work for, and just running 2 Brown and Sharps. My mother was making deliveries, and she was a bookkeeper at a accounting firm here in town, and she was doing this on the side. And then as we started, growing, I was in her belly with her making deliveries. And they'd add a machine, add an employee, add a building, and for too long, kind of spiraled down, and it's building after building. We truly got a campus here. I think I have, it's hard to lose count because we're always throwing up several buildings, but I think I got like 16 buildings now.
Holy
A
smokes.
lot of them are connected and with firewalls in between. And then, some of them are, separate, but it's all a big campus here. But yeah, so we're ISO 9001. We're 13485 for medical. We're high volume machining and medium volume, mainly turning. Probably around 50 multi-spindle screw machines, New Britain, few Acmes. We still have some Brown and Sharp, still have some Davenports.
Mm-hmm.
And actually just started getting into Davenports all these years later. I think we've been running Davenports for 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but over 100 CNC machines. We have a lot of Nakamura's, twin spindle, twin turret. Then in the Swiss machining world, I think we have 42 Swiss machines, Shigami and Citizens. And we are into some milling, but mainly our milling is secondary operations for our turning. So we're
Got it.
not really a milling shop. We've kind of gotten into that, and that's not our forte. So kind of stay away from that.
Yeah. Niching down into that specialty is a winning formula that I've seen time and time again. So how many folks do you have on the team?
So right now we're around 110. That fluctuates. We're 2 shifts, but we're 1 shift. So we got like a flex shift. We just started where we've done 410s is our main shift. And so everybody has Fridays off, minus I do have 1 shift that is your traditional, 8 hours, 5 days a week. And there are about 12 people on it. But we just started that as more of a try to attract people. I think a lot of people would like those hours, like to have a 3-day weekend. And so far people have we've been doing it since Thanksgiving. And it was supposed to be until Christmas, like a trial, but everybody that's on it loves it and they don't want to work Fridays anymore. So then something to help attract some talent.
That's understandable.
Yep.
Yeah, I imagine that's a pretty critical issue for you in a town of 2,800 people and you employ more than 100. That's a pretty sizable part of the town.
Oh, yeah. It's, I'd say we're probably the 4th largest employer here. So you got a big Walmart distribution and, some other stuff. A lot of manufacturers in Chesterfield County, a lot of OEMs.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do have a second shift, but it's all automated. There's no humans on the second shift. And we actually run 7 days a week, 2 shifts, 7 days a week. But it's all that second shift and the weekend are all, no humans here.
That's the best way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And easier with the Swiss machines. And I know you've been doing a lot of cobots, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So do you serve primarily a regional client base or all over the nation or the world?
All over the nation and the world. We're, I'd say, some of our biggest customers are going to be in Wisconsin, Arizona, Texas, New York. And then I do have, obviously we're right on the line. I got a lot in North Carolina and then obviously a lot in South Carolina. We have some medical parts that we ship out to Ireland.
Oh, cool.
I do know, speaking to some guys in the state, so I serve on a few state boards, and I'm on it's the Workforce Development Board with the state, and we have a program called SC Works, and I'm on that board for that region, for our region. And I know a guy came and spoke at our meeting a while back, and he's over, exports. And he recognized Screwmatics, and he told me, he says, "Man, y'all are the largest machining exporter in the state of South Carolina." I said, "Really? I assume I'm going to be the only one." But, I only have one part, one customer, but it's a very expensive part. So I'm sure that dollar figure does start flashing. So it's a small little medical part. And then there's another part I think that goes to UK. And so we do ship some stuff overseas.
Cool. So are those on the medical device side? Are those implantables or what kind of parts are you making?
So, I can show some right behind me if that works. Is that cool? Does that work?
For those that are watching on video, sure.
Yeah,
It'll encourage them to watch the YouTube channel.
Yeah. So, this is a medical. So this is a device that deploys a stent in your aorta. And
wow.
So the surgeon goes through an artery in your thigh, runs up, and I will deploy this. And I'll show you the actual stent here. Where's that stent? Well, somebody stole my stent. Oh, nope, there it is. Okay, so this is a stent that goes in your aorta.
That's not a model of one.
This is
much
the
larger.
Stent. No, this is it.
That's the stent? Are you serious?
That's it.
All right. for those listening, what he's holding is maybe 1.5 inches in diameter and
Yep.
like 8 inches long,
Yep. Yep.
and that goes in your brain.
Yeah, right here in your heart.
Oh, in
Yeah,
your heart.
in the
Okay, I'm
aorta.
sorry.
So
Here.
these little pegs here, this is what is in this device, and it's held right here and by this little tiny part. See if my
Yeah, yeah.
will focus. So this is the part we make, and it's extremely critical. And that's what releases the stent in your heart. And then whenever we take this out, a balloon goes in and they blow it up to help it, take that shape.
Yeah.
So that was a
Gosh.
very tiny, tiny part, very critical. We have to check that on a $90,000 Kiontz camera many times because it's not an option for that to be bad because
Right.
you got a whole device stuck in there.
Wow.
So that one is one we shipped to Ireland. Another part is just a general industrial part, goes on golf carts. Uh,
Okay.
but we do anywhere from very small parts. We do a lot of light power hardware, industrial brakes, a lot of fittings, and a lot of a lot of plumbing parts.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
yep, yep. So various, usually around anywhere from as tiny as you saw that to probably 4.5 inches diameter. So very high
Okay.
volume stuff. And another one we do is an insulin pen. So we don't ship this one overseas. This is extremely high volume. And while we don't ship it to overseas, this is actually it's sold in Asia. So it's made in the US, but sold in Asia.
I like that.
Yep, yep, yep.
Shipping the other direction
Oh
from
yeah.
what often happens. So
Yep.
good for you guys. So yeah, clearly, yeah, the power of modern medicine and the way precision machining
Yeah.
empowers those technologies and innovations.
Oh yeah.
So amazing. And how long have you been at the helm of the ship here, so to speak?
Yeah. So, oh man. So when I was in school, I'd get in trouble, and my dad would come up. He'd say, "Cycle start." That was it. So I'd be in here, child labor. Um,
That was your punishment, is running machines?
oh yeah, oh yeah. He'd get me in here. No partying this weekend. No going out playing soccer or anything. You're going to be running some machines. So, but no, I always enjoyed it, loved it. So I'd guess since I was 10, maybe, I've been in and out of here running machines,
Hmm.
and I'm actually a pilot as well. I actually sing and lead worship at churches all around. And
Oh, very cool.
so I didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't know how I would, mesh with the family business. It's a different dynamic. So, I love flying. Flew air shows for a time with a crew, Warriors and Warbirds out of Monroe, North Carolina. And so I originally went for engineering. But then when that was right at the same time I was getting into aviation. I was like, well, I'm not going to get an engineering degree if it's going to be a waste. I'm just going to be flying airplanes for a living. So then I went to business school and actually really started liking business. And then, the summers come work here at Screwmatics and, gave it a shot and just loved it and, was good at it and took a liking to it. And so that's been ever since. I've been full time since 2011.
Okay. And did your parents step back right around that same period?
No, so Tom and Kim, they're actually still here. My mother and father are still here. They've slowed down. I think my father's 74. He'll be 75 this year. My
Okay.
mom, if she watches this, will be extremely angry if I tell her age. So I'm just gonna, leave that out. But she is, she's quite younger than my father. But they're both slowing down and transitioning some things. But so my title is vice president of the company here, but I am a partner in the business.
Okay. If you don't mind sharing,
Mhm.
second and now third generation shops are everywhere,
Oh yeah.
and there's a lot of those transitions happening. Is the plan to sort of buy out your parents over time? Are you an only child? Do you have siblings? Like, can you just share a little bit of how that process has worked?
Yeah, on that. So I do have an older brother, and luckily for us, I love my brother, but I mean, he would say the same thing. We could not work with each other,
Yeah.
and but luckily, he was never into manufacturing. He get in trouble. He'd have to come down here too, but he hated it. I loved it.
Hmm.
Manufacturing is not for everybody, and
Sure.
but he's always been into the law, and he's a solicitor, prosecutor in York County.
Okay. Cool.
On that dynamic, he does have, we've given some, non-voting shares
Hmm.
there, but pretty much the transition plan is as they start slowing down, they're retaining that ownership until, they pass and it's kind of wheeled over.
Okay.
But my
Got it.
brother does retain some portion of ownership.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So your company is I'd say, pretty large compared to the average shop out here in
Yep.
North America.
hmm
What have you done over the years to, you and your parents have
hmm
done, or as a company, to grow that much more than most shops?
Yeah. So we don't have a sales team. So I'm the sales team.
Hmm.
We've done and I'm not knocking, sales reps. We've done the sales rep stuff in the past. Haven't been fans of it. Haven't really worked out that well for us. Everybody's different. I'm sure there are some that would be great for, but really it's just being really good at what we do, I'd say.
Okay.
We are experts in what we do, and we have a different mentality. Just because we have so many machines, we kind of went through like our strategic growth would be like just a growth strategy. I mean, we were
Mm.
every dollar that came in, every profit we made, that was reinvested back, and it was into newer technology, better machines. Because we were a Brown and Sharp company, and if we just stayed stagnant as just a Brown and Sharp company, we'd probably be out of business today.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't be the size we are today. So then we get into the multi-spindle. And then right when CNC started coming out, we got, more Seeky CNC. And as Swiss started coming out, got into the Swiss. And it's really just having a diverse customer list. We've never really been in the automotive. And I do make some automotive parts, and a lot of people, wonder, we're in South Carolina. Are you doing stuff with Volvo, BMW? We're not. I
Right.
do have some other customers that they're not OEM manufacturers, but we serve parts for them, consumable parts. But we stayed away from automotive, and that's helped us because automotive it's could be really great, or in recent years it hasn't been the greatest. So it's just having a diverse portfolio of businesses. So if one, especially the medical, you're always going to have people, you're always going to have diabetics, you're always going to have people needing surgery. On the flip side of that, plumbing is huge into plumbing. As the economy booms and people are building more infrastructure, they're needing more. You need plumbing parts, and then
Hmm.
we're in power distribution. So anytime like a storm runs through, that's going to happen all the time. Fires, we had some fires in Myrtle Beach last week. Power system gets wreak havoc, and anytime I see a hurricane coming, I start pumping out some inventory. And that's another thing I think that has positioned us well for our customers is willing to have a stock and release program. A lot of these we run blanket orders. We got stock in, and they need to pull in. I keep several months worth of inventory in stock. A lot of our customers during COVID, a big trend in manufacturing past decade or two has been JIT, just in time manufacturing.
Sure.
I mean, there's merits to that, but at the same time, when COVID hit, we had a large inventory, and our customers were very thankful we had a large inventory. So, but you get to know these. Now, some customers you can't do that with; they're constantly changing revisions, and then and that's a risk you take when you're hedging that. I mean, there's been times a part we've been making for 12 years, we got almost a year's worth of inventory on. Then they came out with a new design, and we just had to eat that. So there's risks.
So some of those bets are ones you're just making on your own, not a
Oh yeah,
contractually obligated thing
yep,
with your customer or an
yep.
agreement to hold X amount of months. Do you do that sometimes because and they know they need so much and it fluctuates that they'll commit to 3 months or something like that?
Yes. What I would say is, not all customers and not all buyers that work for those customers are built the same. And
Of
I
course.
think, forming that relationship with that customer, knowing so and so, I'll be honest, I know they're not the best buyer. And so I pay attention to what they're doing, how we as Screwmatics pay attention to what they're doing, how they order, and what their trends are, and really being that advocate for your customer, because that person has their job, and they get busy, and they can make mistakes, and a lot of stuff. Like, I'll look at trends like, hey, you haven't ordered this in a while, I just want to make sure you guys are doing well. You need anything? Like, oh man, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, our inventory is getting low. And so really just giving, not just sitting around waiting, having that interaction and engage with your customer. Another thing I would say that kind of helped boost us was that our secret recipe, if you will, and this isn't necessary for all parts, but for a lot of them, and what kind of threw us into that more success is in a multi-spindle screw machine, we get near net shape. And then we would put it secondary and sometimes a third op into CNC. And honestly, I still got parts today where, I have a Super NTMX 5-axis, milling, twin spindle, single turret. You could do, now I do have some parts that where we were making them in 5 operations. Now we make them in 1 in the Super NTMX, and that's more profitable. However, I do have some that it is way more profitable to do it rough out in the screw machine and then put it in a second and third operation.
Mhm.
And quite often I see that where I'm looking at a new machine tool and I'll send, NDAs in place, and I'll send the drawing and say, this is what we're trying to achieve. And they're like, oh, we can do this whole thing operation complete in this machine. And I
Right.
say, well, if I did that, I'd lose the business because I couldn't compete. And they'll say, wow, like I can get 90 of these an hour. Like, yeah, well, I can get 800 an hour first stop, and then I can get 350 an hour second off, and I'm way ahead of, your 80 an hour. And, having the screw machines, I think that's really started where our success was versus you got a lot of shops that are just in CNC. And if you're
Mhm.
competing me doing it multiple operations, instead of that mentality of all in one, you couldn't compete. But
Uh,
again, it all depends on the part, because I do have some that we have transitioned over the routing and is no longer done in that multi step.
sure, sure.
It's even now, especially with the automation and robots and cobots, to it's even better to do it in the screw machine and then just leave it overnight, have that robot, running the parts, and then also checking the parts and come back in the morning, verify everything's been done. And
Mhm.
it's hard to compete with that when, you don't have any labor costs associated with it. Very minimal labor cost.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm curious, I don't know the answer to this. Do they still make new multi-spindle machines?
They do, but they're all CNC controlled.
Yeah, they're not CAM.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you can get Index, Tornos, but you're looking at, I can get a new Britain cam and gear machine for, 60, 80, 120,000, depending on what you're looking at.
Mhm.
And then if you're looking at a, brand new Index that would take its place, like 2.8 million, so it's,
Whoa.
yeah, they're very expensive machines.
Okay.
So a lot of machine shops, they do have them. I actually did purchase 4 Index last year. They were used, but then ended up selling them before it even made it to the shop floor as OEM. That, eventually that is something we're going to have to move towards, is either a CNC controlled multi-spindle
Mhm.
or, it's hard to justify, say you got 6 spindles, paying $2.4 million for 6 spindles, or you buy 6 Swiss machines.
Right.
And, you know, gonna roughly be around the same cost depending on what you get. However, if the machine goes down, you only have 1 spindle down, not
Yeah.
almost $3 million down. A benefit for us is how cheap we can erect the buildings here. We got a full-time crew essentially that, builds these metal buildings for us, and we have a lot of real estate. So a lot of people, that's not an option because you're very limited in space. We have,
Mm.
as large as we are, I have a lot more land around here. Right
And y
on.
that you own, that you
Oh,
can build
yes.
on
Yep.
anytime you want.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
And are these the teams that are building the buildings, they're employees of yours, or just a firm
They're
that you're
subcontractors, but they only do. We're always just building something, and he
got
only takes on a few projects a year, and they're usually all mine. So,
it.
yep.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, just maybe this is too much in the weeds, but I'm just curious.
Mhm.
So that I've seen the index machines. I've been to some shops, some customers that have these big machines, but it's more like a rotary transfer. Like the parts are moving around to multi stations versus. I was just at a shop in Texas recently where these these old cam driven machines. There's like 6 spindles all kind of in a row,
Yeah.
kind of like an old revolver.
Yeah. You're talking about like a hydromat on the.
Oh, yes, a hydromat, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of. That's different than an index in
Yes.
terms
Yes.
of its
That's it.
layout.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like that Gatling gun style, what you're talking about,
Mhm.
that's what we have, the New Britons and Acmes, cam and gear, but they do make, hydromats as well, and, The same thing. I mean, it's just, different
Hmm.
applications, but yeah, same type thing and same expense for a hydromat. I've looked into hydromat as
Yeah.
well, but great machine.
Yeah. Thank you for setting me straight on that.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
definitely okay. Very cool. I imagine this, just really high volume world you live in.
Mm,
That's what you've done since day one. So you've just naturally progressed and grown in this
mhm,
area. Because I know there's a lot of shops that really want to move into higher volume
mhm,
type of work. They're stuck in sort of more of the job shop world,
mhm.
but you've never known anything but the higher volume world. So those are the people that find you because your website. Those are the buyers at high volume companies that go move to another company and then they call you from there.
Mhm.
Can you just talk about this sort of being in this higher volume environment?
Yeah, so with us, I'll say, we do like I got some parts we're doing 210,000 a week of.
Hmm.
I got some that we're doing 30 parts a year of. So we are very, we have a
Hmm. Okay.
lot going on. So it's philosophy is we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. So and that just helps with because there are years where like last year, we took on a lot of new customers. And it was just a down year with my other customers, and we had not expecting it, we were 20% down with all of our regular customers. However, since I added some new customers, very high volume, for the year, we ended up at 5%, 5% growth, which isn't
Oh wow.
very much growth, but considering it could have been 20% less,
Yeah.
I take that as a win all day.
Absolutely.
So, on that side of, getting those larger, clients and large stuff. So I have my own secret recipe, my secret sauce that I do not give away on how I find those.
Okay.
But I have definitely cracked the code, I would say. But the one thing I would say is, that personal touch of, managing that relationship well and that business relationship and really filling their need. I mean, these people have a need. The question you ask yourself is, how do I find these people? That's the key. And then once you find them, just what you're selling is your ability, your capability. And for us, that's easy because we have. For me, it's a lot easier now because we have 200 machines, and we just have so much different capability. So I have that option. If you got 200 parts, I can, even though, I do have a higher overhead, it is, with the volume I do and then techniques with the lights out and just how efficiently we do stuff, I can still compete with, a small job shop that's only got maybe two or three people. Even though I got
Mhm.
110, I can still compete with that. And my overhead's not as high as you would think. But
Right. Yeah. Okay. With the growth over the last, many years, can you compare and contrast like the growth rate of the company when your parents were running it versus when you came in and maybe were you the really first person to really kind of really solely focus on doing sales?
Yeah, yeah, it was more, word of mouth. It was, and they had some sales reps. I'll say we did have one, that did pretty well, for one customer, but it was more word of mouth. So we didn't have any kind of focus on. So when I came, we had a DOS program for our ERP system, and I had no clue what DOS was. And I was like, I refuse. So we changed that up, and whenever I came on, the I mean, not the fear, just one of the, opportunities where, a lot of our customers were the same customers we had. And, so yeah, I was kind of the first one that, I just took on the sales and not that I, came out of school like I want to be in sales. My degree's in marketing. It was, I did take marketing, love marketing, but, it was, business management. But it's just kind of one of those things. That's where I recognized, kind of doing analysis. What we're doing here is our weak points. Is we need to broaden our customer base, which Tom and Kim did a great job of. But it's just like I said, it's the same customer. So right now, I would say our top six customers right now we didn't even have 6 years ago.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, yeah, but we still have some great customers that have been here for 30 years. as well.
Right.
So
So the new big ones that are really driving the needle in your growth are new since you've been in this role.
yep, yep.
Okay. So would you say that's one of your secrets for success is that you guys for the last many years now are really have a dedicated focus to just always finding new customers, new relationships?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those things where things always change, and you kind of get to a point where I don't know. It's like I'm at max capacity, and it's like, why am I doing? At that point, you don't want to stop trying to see because things always change, and
Mhm.
it just happened to be our largest customer today we did not have 2 years ago, and it's one of those things where at the time when I started this transition of taking them on as a customer, I really didn't have that capacity, but it's like, I will find capacity. I will make it if we need it. We'll hire more people. We'll add some more machines. But it just so happened, we had a slowdown. One thing about, medical devices and some other industries as well, if you're getting into like switches or like fittings, it's always an MPT thread, fitting is going to always be the same. You're not changing
Mm.
that. But with medical devices, you have a product life and you have a maturity. And it just so happened one of them just sprung up where, it's had this maturity. They've changed the whole thing. It's all plastic molded now. We don't need component parts. It just so happened as I was taking this new customer on, wondering how in the world am I going to make these parts? Now I got open capacity. So, if I had that mentality of, oh, we're at max, I need to pull back on that, we'd be hurting today.
Yeah. That's a lesson I learned in the early years of our shop, is that what we used to do is, I'd go out and do some sales and then we'd get busy and they'd be like, okay, we're busy. I don't need to work on sales. And
Mhm.
I need actually to help get jobs out the door
Yep.
and customer service things. And then invariably those orders would ship and deliver and then we'd be slow again. So it's like I learned that lesson. You got to always be selling, even
Always.
when you're at your busiest,
Yep.
because like you said, things ebb and flow, customers come and go through no fault of your own. And yeah, if you're not filling the pipeline with opportunity all the time,
Yep.
those low points can be absolutely brutal.
Oh yeah. Yes, it can. And it's one of those things where it's easy to not do it because you're so busy, like you said, and it's like, man, I need to be out on the floor, need to be helping this, get this out the door, seeing where this part is. You still have to do that, but you've got to make time to, focus on that selling and finding a new customer, find a new avenue. And a lot of that too comes with, new technologies. I really think that's been the key. So many different. There's not one key, but one thing is just the furthering of our technology out of necessity, out of growth. Then you add this capability, and you're able to get one up on your competition who's already serving that customer. Well, now I have this ability, and I can do it for quicker because my newer technology and a more efficient way to do something.
Do you guys have a percentage of your revenue that you always put back into R&D and new technology, or is it just whatever you think it's going to take, or is there a target?
I mean, a lot of it has to do, with your how profitable we are that year, and then you got your Section 179, and we're more of a tax thing where
Hmm.
well, we need to spend this. We see this new technology on these Nakamuras or something like that. It's be neat to have. So, we get those or on a Shigami. And like right now, we're looking at Nakamura's coming. Everybody has this oscillating cutting now and oscillating turning. And now I know Nakamura's looking like oscillating tapping and stuff like that. So we're just, investing into stuff like that you know, whenever we see the need and the ability financially to do it. So.
I've heard the term. I need to learn more about oscillating, machining, and tapping. Could you give us the 15-second version?
Yeah, yeah. So it's essentially it's in the control, and it's just like a chip. Everybody has their own like brand for it. Like Citizen has a name for it. Shigami. It sounds like you have a bent rod in the bar whenever, but it's essentially just like a little pulse or something.
It's for chip control.
That's what it is. It's for chip control.
Okay.
And yeah, it sounds like there's some. First time I heard it, it's like we got a bent rod in this machine, but no, that's not how it's supposed to. But and it works great. I mean, it really does.
Is that a key for unattended lights out machining without getting these big rat's nests of chips? Like, is that one of the strategies?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Another thing, like on our Swiss machines, a lot of like Okumas, they come standard with glass scales and stuff, but a lot of our Swiss machines we added glass scales on, and that just helps it be a lot, more accurate. And that's helped us with the lights out as well. And then with like that part I showed you, the medical part for the
Yeah.
yeah, the stent, you
Yes.
couldn't make that part without, and that's actually why we got the glass scales put on it, because we tried everything and we could not get that thing to hold tolerance. And it
Wow.
turned out to be thermal growth in the machine. Like that's, I mean, you're holding tenths on that thing.
Hmm.
And the only way we could do it is, $18,000 adder per machine. And that's the glass scales for them. And that's what it was. Yeah, I'm sure it's more expensive now.
And that just ties back into the control to give you better
Yeah.
resolution of the growth and size of your axes and your machine.
Yeah, yeah, it's constantly measuring, making adjustments. What's neat, I only have one Okuma, but Okuma USA is right here in Charlotte. And what's neat about them on their control, you actually see the glass scale just constantly make an adjustment on the control. That's pretty neat to see. How I got on the Shigami, you don't see that, but
Right.
pretty neat.
Huh. So I've heard in one of the sister shows under Making Chips, by the numbers with Mike Payne, he talks about with the Section 179, don't just go buy a machine because you have some tax
Oh, yeah.
breaks to get. Like you need to have a business case for
Mhm.
why you actually do that.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you've been pretty smart about leveraging, the code, the tax law, but doing it in a smart way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I'll like that one part we discussed where I took five operations and now I got it one operation complete. I mean that's we're looking and I see the technology on the Super NTMX Nakamura is like my God, like this is I got the part in mind like this, and then it's going to free up my other stuff to win some more work. But that is an expensive machine. I mean those things are like $900,000 brand new. So you need to make. I mean I'm just not going to go out. Oh, I need this tax write off and
Right.
and I could have bought 5 or 6 machines for that. I mean, it's just, definitely have to have a business case for it. I mean, that one I saw return on investments, it was, I mean, it was still like 3 years, but it's like, this is a long-term part I'm not gonna lose. So,
Hmm.
knock on wood, but that's been like 5 or 6 years now. We have 2 of those machines now. They're great machines.
Yeah, very nice. Our first lathe we ever bought was a little Nakamura TMC 15M,
Oh,
very
yeah.
basic machine, but with live tooling and not Y-axis, but that was in the late 90s.
Hmm. Okay.
I'd love to shift and talk about your team, your culture,
Mhm.
your workforce development. You said you're on the board of SC Works or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you approach that? How do you make sure you always have enough good people engaged, that are in the right seats on the bus?
Yeah, yeah. So, rewinding all the way back to 1988, whenever Screwmatics was started, a reason my father did it here in Pageland is because an OEM, not going to name any names, but they're located in Pageland as well, and that's where he came from, a screw machine, and then you also have another large screw machining company OEM in Chesterfield County as well. So we had a very large pool of machining, and if you look at the stats, I don't have them. I should have had them ready for the conversation. But in Chesterfield County, there is more metal cut per capita in Chesterfield County than all of South Carolina by far. I mean, we are the largest, metal cutting county in the state.
Yep.
And so, with that, that helped them. It was strategic on where he landed, not just because he already lived here, but it was the perfect recipe. You have that experienced workforce. And but now, fast forward, that always changes because these people, move, pass away, get into different fields. So that is, I think, along with everybody else, the struggle is that workforce. But, I am on that board. I was on the workforce development board for the county as well for a time. I'm not any longer. They ended up absolving that. Now they have like a workforce director. But, I'm very involved with the PD region where we're at with that board. Another thing is my father, Tom, he is on the endowment board. He's on the administrative board for the local tech school.
Oh, very good.
Yep. So we have a program with them as well. We have I call Pageland University It's a machine shop tech school. It's right here. We with my father being on that board, luckily, pick the CNC machines that would be best suited for. They got FANUC control. So our shop, we got 200 machines. 95% of my machines are going to have FANUC control. I do have some MITS control,
Hmm.
but we're a FANUC shop. So we wanted to make sure, not knocking Haas or any other, that's a big one you see at tech schools. But, for Pageland, there are no Haas control machines here. And, we advocated, we want exactly what they're going to be running at learning and tech is going to transfer right over to Screwmatics.
Yeah, you
And
bet.
and at the same time, the other, it's not just a selfish thing. Yeah, we're going to advocate for ourselves, but the manufacturers here in the county, you take a tour through them, they got the same machines. They got robo drills. They got, they have Nakamuras. They have, FANUC control machines. So being on that board, that is, that's a great tool for us just being involved. My mother-in-law is the assistant superintendent of the school district here. And so I, try to use that as much as I can to get into the schools and speak. And actually, that's how I ended up meeting my wife.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I actually went to kindergarten and first grade with her. But then, I was just involved as soon as I got out of college. First thing I was doing was hitting the middle school, hitting the high schools in the whole county, and going to their parent, teacher, student like meetings. At the quarter, at the end of the semester, and I was speaking on the jobs of machining because. And again, I'm not knocking anybody, but you go in the schools, the guidance counselors aren't telling their kids about machining. They're telling them, go get that 4-year degree, go get your English degree, go get your psychology degree. So they're not advocating for us. So they do great work, but they're not advocating for machinists. You got to advocate for yourself. So that's one thing I do is as often as I can go into the schools, talk to the parents, talk to the kids. South Carolina has a great apprenticeship program, and so we
Yeah.
we participated in that. And youth apprentice, I had one guy. Our one thing machine shops are going to see an issue with that is the age thing. Their insurance is only going to cover 18 years and older.
Hmm.
However, the program we had with the schools, they signed up where it's on their liability, and so I was able to get some 16 and 17-year-olds in here.
Oh,
And
wow.
what's great about that, I had one who was the salutatorian for his graduating class. He was working here, and I mean, he was setting up programming CNC machines right out of high school. He's 18 years old, and he was doing fantastic. He ended up joining the Marines. Love him to death. Good for him. Great for our country. I miss him. But I mean, that would have never happened if I wasn't in the schools. But again, back to my where I met my wife is I was at the New Heights Middle School here, and I was on a panel where they were discussing with the parents and the teachers, the jobs that are in the county. And I was really advocating for, how great a paying job this is, a great living you can make. And the lady that was over that is my now mother-in-law. She's like, you really need to meet my daughter. So that's how that
Good.
happened. But
Good for her.
oh yeah,
That's brilliant. So how many of your new hires that you take on in a year are coming from those initiatives, students or from the tech school or
a good bit. So our, one thing that is, concerning, or a risk to look at is on my cam and gear, those multi-spindle screw machines, that while I do have some younger people and they're younger than me, your expertise is an older generation that's near retirement.
Mhm.
But the great thing that I love whenever I take customers in here or potential customers do a tour, you go into my Swiss department, you go in my CNC departments, they're young. I mean, they came through my top people. All the top people here, I mean, they've been working here for years, and they first job here, and now they are. I mean, they may not want to got a master's and a doctorate, but they can do right angle trig better than any math professor at any college around. I can tell you.
I love it.
But they're young guys and girls. I got a lot of girls who've gone through the tech school program. Some of them we have sent and paid for. There's some years where it's a little slow, still profitable, but just a little slower. So you take advantage of that when you can, and you send them and get training. And a lot of that, I love South Carolina. A lot of that I've gotten grants to help pay for that through the state.
Yeah. Is that through the MEP network in the state there?
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Call out to the MEPs. It's a great program.
oh yeah,
Lots of people don't take advantage of it. So good for you for doing that.
I would say it was an incumbent worker training grant. I probably got it 4 years in a row, anywhere from 30 to I think $60,000. I mean, so we were investing a ton in education and sending people, and some of them did complete and get their associate's degree in machine tool technology, and they're
Hmm.
they run departments here. I got guys at early 30s, or yeah, early and mid and late 30s. I mean, they make a great living.
Hmm.
Cost of living's low here. They got great families and involved in the community. Just and it just takes that investment and that initiative of wanting to invest in them. And I mean, it furthers our success, furthers their success.
Yeah, brilliant. So you've laid out, I think, quite clearly how your investment in workforce development is just super paying off. So it's a
Yes.
great model, great advice. Once you get them inside the team, how do you keep them? What do you do with your culture, your values? How are you kind of leading there?
Yeah. So we are larger, but at the same time, it doesn't have that feel. We're sometimes I say, oh, you can go to this company, but you're going to be following the yellow brick road. You're going to have to stay in line. And here we work individually with people, and we don't have like set pays. Some shops will publish like, hey, if you're an operator, you're from here to here. If you're a seventh person, you're from here to here. We don't post that. And it's really, I tell people when they come in, like how much money you make here and what your pay is determined by you. Whatever value you're bringing, we're going to meet that, and we're going to try to stay on top of that and make you happy. But, I've had some people here that say have been here for 10 years, they make six figures. I got some people been here for 10 years, and I mean, they're making, $16 an hour. I mean, it's just, you have that dynamic. Some people have capability, some people care, and some people just, they're great with that. And some
Yeah.
people don't have that ability, but the ones that do, if you take it serious and you put some initiative into it, you can make a lot of money in machining. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
anywhere in the
Absolutely.
world. I've had guys love him to death. He watches this. He knows I'm talking about him, but, graduated here in Pageland, worked for us, and decided he wanted to live in Hawaii. Went and lived in Hawaii, did machining there. He did machining in Australia. I think he did it somewhere in Europe. Now he's back here in the States. And I mean, you can live anywhere. I advocate for you to stay in the watermelon capital of the world. I don't know why you go off, but it's a great way to make a living anywhere you want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Hallelujah to that.
Yeah.
Um, Very cool. Besides, competitive pay and really allowing them to grow and develop within the company in the areas that interest them and making sure you're training. Do you have established core values as a company? Is that something you try to focus on? Which I attribute to sort of building culture, around a common set of values that everyone kind of is aligned with.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have anything like published, but just a internal culture. That's what we do. We individually work with people,
Yeah.
and like I have one lady who is a great setup CNC person. She's also great in quality. And, I was hoping she would take over, a quality management system and, start to move her in that role. She came to me and was like, I don't want to make you mad, but I really don't want I would much rather, I prefer setting up Swiss machines and programming. And I said, well, that is exactly what you're going to be doing. Whatever makes you happy is going to make me happy.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you need to get to know your workforce and see where their strengths are and work with them, and where their weaknesses are. Together you focus on that, and you learn.
Yeah.
I'll give one tip. I want to give away all my secrets, but one thing I have found that really helps the operators that want to learn is take your I'm giving away a huge secret here. Take your program, go to Chat GPT, put it in, and say, give me line for line exactly what this is doing in the machine. And it's going to give you detailed stuff. Just print it out, hand it to them, let them read it. And they'll start teaching themselves more about the machine without you even having a formal thing. They're sitting there going code line by line instead of
Mhm.
me pulling an operator or programmer off and teaching them. The AI is going to pull it off for them. So
That's a very cool tip. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's shops doing more and more stuff with G code all the time.
Oh yeah.
So I imagine that's a fairly new tip because
Oh
you
yeah.
weren't doing that 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, y'all probably just heard it from me first, but, gotta
That's
share the
awesome.
love, I guess, because I mean, we're all in this together, so
Hmm.
and, why I say that is because when I hand that to these people, I did it last week, their eyes light up like, "This is what I was wanting," like, I don't understand what's going on that thing, and, you don't want them to be discouraged, like, "Oh, I'm not gonna train you," but you get busy, I can't devote somebody who really knows what they're doing to hold your hand the entire time and go line by line on this,
Hmm.
3-path control machine on a very complicated part. Now they can go through it themselves while they're running the machine, and they'll be able
Hmm.
to see, "Oh, that's what this is doing." And you do have to go over it because some of it, might not be exactly accurate. It's more accurate than you think. But then
Yeah.
sometimes, there are like custom M codes that, but, ChatGPT will tell you, like, I'm not sure what this is. This is a custom code. And so then, you go hand write in what this is.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's pretty neat technology, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is. What are your biggest challenges today and what are you doing to solve them?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing everybody's going to have the same answer is the workforce. But we hadn't really chatted on the on my second shift, and that's just been a huge thing. So we just to give you a rundown, if that's okay, of our
Yeah,
automation
absolutely.
experience. I'd say about 10 years ago, we had this high volume part, and it's like, man, we need to get into some automation, and it was terrible. It was so bad. We didn't get into automation until about 2 years ago. I mean, for a good 10 years, so I guess it's been 12 years. A good 10 years, we didn't do anything just because our experience was so bad. We bought a Fanuc robot, paid an integrator to come in, come up with a custom system, and from day one, it was tending two gang tool machine tools, just
Mhm.
load and unload. Had a drawer system, and it was terrible. And it would run. I think we spent like $180,000 on it, and in 4 months we put it in the corner, and it sat there for 10 years.
Wow. Just not reliable or what? Yeah, what was so bad?
It just wasn't well integrated. It was, losing its position. The integrator we worked with really didn't do any training. They wanted to bill you those hours. So it's very
Mhm.
crucial on, the partnerships you make,
Mhm.
and that's one where it was a terrible partnership. They just wanted to nickel and dime you, like, "Oh, it's a service cost, so don't teach the people how to work the pendant." So we put it, I always joke, like, one of these days I'm gonna put it in my home bar and just teach it to, shake a cocktail or something because it's doing nothing. Spent a
Right.
lot of money on it. And then it just became there was an opportunity with a customer I got. It's one of those, you don't wanna overpromise and underdeliver, but it's just one of those things where I might have overpromised a little bit and the work was a lot more. It's like, out of necessity, the only way I can hit these numbers because 'cause we're not hiring people, we've got to have a second shift, and this was after COVID. We had a second shift up until COVID. Then
Mhm.
after that, we absorbed everybody into a first shift, and after that, nobody wanted to go to second shift. And
Right.
it's just, talking about culture there. I want people to be happy. If they're not happy, I mean, I'm not going to be happy. So, you're not going to force somebody to do something they don't want to. They're going to do terrible work. So, what we had to do out of necessity, we had to get into the lights out manufacturing. And I had these Swiss machines. I had some very high volume work where it was, in the 200,000s a week. And the only way I can do that is I'm running around the clock.
Mhm.
So we already had the ability. We had had the fire trace systems on the machines.
Yep.
We have tool break detection on machines. Like, why aren't we doing this? And then, from there too, another little tidbit, we actually end up networking a lot. I'm up to about 46 machines now that are networked. I get live data off of them, OEE data.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're using, and again, not going to knock anybody. You have all kind of companies doing this now, and they
Yeah.
have this model where you pay per machine per month. When you got 200 machines, that's a fortune. I mean,
Mhm.
that doesn't make any sense. But I really wanted to do that, and I finally found through Fanuc, MT Link I through Fanuc, I could link 200 machines together, turnkey for about 10 grand, and that's it. One time payment.
Wow.
You're not paying monthly $300 per machine, $200 per machine, and I'm getting more data. And the back end is totally open. So I'm pulling, like, say, one instance on this Shigami, I'm pulling 88 different points. I got, spindle, startup amperage, temperatures, just every parameter in that machine is reporting. and really neat technology. But that really helped our lights out because I can be at home. I have a VPN on my phone that'll connect to the shop, and I can pull up the machines live time, and you can see what tool's in the cut. You can see if it's under load, if the tool's broken. So I can, you can see what the machines are doing. We added some cameras in, and it's just been, out of necessity. We did that, and then we brought on this new customer, and like, well, this isn't a Swiss run part. Like, we need to run this on screw machine, which you can't do that lights out. You got to have somebody here for a cam and gear machine. But in the secondary, how do we do that? And it's a part where I'm not constantly. Another thing is has to be the part, right? If you're going to have to constantly change out inserts or make adjustments, it's not a lights out candidate. But this was a great lights out candidate minus it's not a bar feed job. So then we started looking into the cobots,
Got it.
and that's when I'm a huge fan of the OB7 productive robotics. Great cobots to work with. I can turnkey one of those units with the OB7 stretch has a larger reach, 10 and 2 machines, 2 gang tool style machines. I can turnkey that for around about $38,000. I mean, that is integrated in everything.
That's incredible.
Insane price because everyone else, I ain't gonna talk bad about no brand. I've said that several times, but everyone else, great brands, but nobody could touch productive robotics pricing. And, at that point, you're like, this is too good to be true. But at that figure, I go back to my bartender joke. Well, that figure, I would like to have a bartender. If it don't work out, I can, throw this at home and that'd be neat. But it worked out. I would say that I had one guy in the shop that was right there with me. This is going to work. This is going to be great. Then everybody else in the shop, my father included, this is never going to work. So we're going to make it work. And then luckily, we made it work. We had that one, and now I'm up to 6 of those cobots running. And that's,
Wow.
how I got into this whole spiel is how dealing with, your issues, and ours is workforce. And our biggest issue was we couldn't get a second shift. And now I'm running around 30 machines second shift with automatic bar feed, Swiss machines. Also, I got some Nakamura's WY150s, twin spindle, twin turret running bar feed. They're running, nonstop. And then on the secondary stuff, I actually have some gantry loaded Miratex as well. We bought those, I think, 2 years ago as well. And, they're running great too. Just load those up. The thing about those is, you're spending $400,000 a machine versus already have the gang tool machines. They're paid for, they're appreciated. Great Doosan's, also a Ganesh machine. So what's neat about that is that the Ganesh is a gang tool twin spindle machine. So I got four parts being ran at once, and then I got one cobot now loading. And another thing while I'm on that, one thing that stopped us from going the cobot route instead of the robot route is that you watch a cobot and it is slow as Christmas. I mean, that thing is just, oh my gosh, man, a human would outpace that thing, would kill that thing. No, it doesn't. It looks like it does, but when it doesn't take a break, it doesn't stop for 30 seconds just to talk to their neighbor and then go back. We noticed within the first 2 days that cobot was producing 200 more parts per shift than the human. And the human that was running it, one of our best operators. So if they're beating him, yeah, this is real data. And so immediately, we have those 6 cobots are taking the place of, if you count 2 shifts, 12 people. So now I've saved, labor cost on 12 different people. Another thing with that is I was at a fly-in the other day. I'm a pilot and fly-in, and I was telling this to somebody, and the guy said, "Oh, well, here we are, just another argument for a universal basic income." I'm like, absolutely not. Because while I got rid of those low wage, 12 jobs, now the guy who is in charge of this and coming in, because you still have to have somebody in a lights out operation.
Sure.
Eventually, the tray's going to run out of parts.
Yep.
Eventually, they're going to need to be moved. So I have a guy that comes in, and a few different people. They'll come in and they'll load it up. They'll stay here for an hour or two. So you pay them, quite well to do that because they're taking their time to come out. So now they're making really good money. And because now I'm making really good money, and then now in turn, they're getting much bigger bonuses to come in and run this stuff. So, they're happy. Yay comes in, he or she will come in on a weekend, but they're only here for 2 hours. I mean, they're already in town, they're
Yep.
making money,
Yep.
and, so that has been the key, I think, is this lights out for us. And another thing is just on that MT Link I stuff where everything's networked together and linked, I can what's neat about that software is, while I'm on it, that helps with your cycle times is, it'll do an analysis of your program, and it'll tell you what percentage of the time your program's cutting air.
Oh, nice.
Immediately, like, "Oh my gosh, we're cut," like, so you can tighten up your programs that way, really gives you a competitive advantage. And I'll say this, about MT Link Eye's competitors that charge monthly fees, they can't do that.
Mm,
Their stuff doesn't do that, and this is so much cheaper. One-time payment. I already had the servers on site, so you do have to have, some expensive servers, which I already had, and, that data's, running through that. And again, if you don't like the look of it, it's open source back end, so you can have somebody write custom programs for it. Everything I have, pull up the phone, look at it. So that has been great. Probably my biggest concern is just, as that generation ages is the multi-spindle screw machines, cam and gear driven
mhm.
machines.
Right.
Um, no.
What do you think you're going to do about that?
So I think eventually I'm going to try as long as I can, to train people. The problem, and I have a few guys that are very young that love it, but most people you get in, they don't. I mean, a cam and gear New Britain is greasy, it's dirty.
Mhm,
You're getting your
mhm,
knuckles busted up. You're in the
mhm.
machine, but some people still do like that. And
Right.
I even had a girl come in and she's like, "That's what I wanna do." She works on, drag cars, she's in her 20s,
Yeah.
and just, "That's what I wanna do." But unfortunately, it's just she's a very petite girl, and, that's lifting those big 2.5-inch bars,
Right.
12-foot bars, that was doing work on her. She just physically could not do it. So, "Okay, yeah, I'll go to CNC." But most people are like, "I want CNC. I
Yeah.
understand that. I understand a computer." This whole cam thing, what the heck's a cam? I mean,
Mhm.
it's just actively trying to search out those people. But, eventually I think we're going to have to do that route of multiple Swiss machines to take the place of one screw machine, or, something like an index or a Tornos, a CNC multi-spindle,
Right.
or even a hydromat, if the case. I have had some parts. I don't have many more. But I did have one good candidate for a hydromat at one point. But, right
Sure.
right recipe for the right part.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have some security when you make a big financial commitment like that, and just
Oh,
the
yeah.
investment to get that tooled up and running. So,
So,
well, Billy, this has been a really fantastic conversation. I appreciate your willingness to share so much,
yeah,
from the importance of evolving as you've grown, really being an advocate for your customers. So, more of that partnership that you're
oh,
building over the years, being sales driven all the time. The fact that your largest client you didn't have 2 years ago and your top six, not in the
yeah,
last 5 or 6 years, that's incredible.
yeah,
And everything you're doing with schools and the tech schools and talking to kids, that's very actionable. Every shop
mm,
leader should be,
yes.
someone on their team should be in their schools, talking to them, sharing about the company, giving away t-shirts, whatever. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it is, yeah, it's great call out.
Yeah, and I'll say real quick on that one, they love tours. Go to your school, say, "Hey, y'all want a field trip? We will give you guys a tour." That really gets the kids excited about it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I know on the apprenticeship and the age. I know I a prior guest on the show in Texas is trying to work with the local Texas legislature to get that age range for insurance down into 16 or so, because they want to do the same thing that you're talking about. They just can't, at least in that state, can't do it yet. So
yeah.
they got to wait till 18, which is too late for a lot of
Oh,
cases.
yeah.
So
Oh.
yeah, great on that. And then all the lights out tips, just so fantastic. So if people want to learn more about Screwmatics, where do you send them?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, www.screwmatics.com. You can email info@screwmatics.com, or you can email me, billy.hogge, billy.hogge @screwmatics.com, and, love to give you more information.
All right. Well, thank you again for everything. Very generous of your time and knowledge. I know there's a lot of takeaways that people will be able to put into practice again to help us all. We're all in this together. So
Absolutely.
thank you again, Billy.
Thanks, Paul.